What is good, everybody? Today, I have a very, very special guest joining us. If you watch my live streams, we had discussed making this happen, and we were finally able to make it happen. Considering, a good friend of mine works with me, and a lot of the stuff what we do, kind of with Blaze. We obviously there's a lot of crossover there with myself and Steve Dace, and of course, the writer of that book. We have a movie that is about to drop 2 days from actually now in I believe April the 14th, if I'm not mistaken. So we're right around the corner, of course, with it, and that is Nefarious. You guys have heard it. You've probably watched a bunch of trailers, and again, I've been discussing it as well. And of course, today I'm joined by the actual star in the film, and that's Mr. Sean Patrick Flanery. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Yourself?
I'm doing great, man. Again, like we talked about briefly off record, man. I'm glad that we can finally make this sort of thing happen. I love sort of discussing just people kind of in their own field and what it is they're doing, certainly in entertainment, because I'm always intrigued by that, the story and kind of how they operate within it, considering that there's been a lot of changes. But before we get into all of that, let's just discuss Nefarious as far as the movie in your own words, because I know everybody has their like, hey, what genre is it in and all that. But in your own words, are you able to kind of explain, certainly for the audience, like what is the basis of the movie and how it is that you certainly see it from even a genre perspective, and what type of moviegoer you think would be intrigued by this?
Man, the whole genre blending thing and sticking a label on it. To me, I think it's a psychological drama.
Okay.
It's really a story about mental manipulation, but is it really manipulation? Because there's a lot of truth in there.
Right.
Um, it's a movie that causes introspection. It's not a it's not a lot of blood and gore, but some of my favorite scary movies were things that were incredibly cerebral. I
Yeah.
didn't really need to see an arm leaving a body, but the idea of that is more frightening to me than anything else. When a stranger calls is probably the scariest
Yeah.
thing that I think I've ever seen. And there's no blood, there's no gore. It's just the whole concept and the story that unfolds that's kind of horrifying.
Yeah.
So, I hope we're effective in pulling that off. But, certainly there is a scare factor in it. There is frightening aspects. There is very heavy dramatic aspect of it. So I would
Mhm.
have to say psychological scary thriller.
Okay.
If that is a genre.
Okay. Look, ain't nothing wrong with that, man. I'm certainly understanding that in the industry of music, man. People try to kind of place you in the box, and sometimes you're doing something that's kind of outside of that. It doesn't really fit in one thing, and it blends, and often that comes out to be kind of the best kind of creative stuff that is certainly coming out. So, I guess, how did you kind of come across like getting this gig? I know you had just came off. Was that was your directorial debut? Was it like a year ago with was it Frank Penelope, right?
Yes, sir, it
All right.
was. And um, wonderful opportunity for me to write and direct, and that
Yeah.
that came off the strength of a bunch of producers read a book that I wrote. It came out in 2016 called Jane 2. They loved that. So they gave me an opportunity to write and direct, and I had a wonderful time doing that. And it came out. It was very well received, and I'm flattered and humbled and all the etc. I did a movie in 2004 with Chuck and Carrie,
Okay.
the writers and producers of Nefarious. And at the culmination of that film, I said to him, I said, guys, I loved working with you guys, and I would do a Fruit Loops commercial with y'all. Well, a year and a half ago, they called me and they said, hey, Flanery, we got a Fruit Loops commercial. And I said, put me in, coach. And they said, whoa, 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 hang on. You got to read the script. Let me send it to you. And I read it, and it was Nefarious. And I said, I am all in. When do we start? And that's how it happened. I think they are two of the most talented writers in the entire industry. Not in a certain genre, but in the entire Hollywood industry. And I've read scripts for 30 years, man.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, like, is there any sort of like, well, let me ask you this first. I'm not sure the kind of the familiarity with the book. I know definitely on our side of like internet. We talk about like source material and all of that. Do you think that this is something definitely people that read the Nefarious book, written by, again, the great Steve Dace? Is it one of those that it's a direct adaptation? It does a great job of kind of capturing those moments in that book. What is the relation there?
The script is different from the book,
Okay.
but I highly recommend that people not only watch the film but read the book. Steve wrote an amazing book, and you should not replace that book with this film.
Okay.
But by all means, you need to see the movie and read the book. There is incredibly pertinent information in both, and I, I hadn't even heard about the book
Yeah.
until I got the script, and
Yeah.
obviously then I read the book and thought, okay, there's a different incarnation in the movie than the book, but you cannot do one without the other. I
Makes
mean,
sense.
they are. I'm incredibly proud of the film, and I'm incredibly honored to be a part of Steve Dace's book.
Yeah. And how, I guess that leads me to my next kind of question surrounding that. I mean, Steve, I know you probably had a chance to talk with him about this. Kind of what's been the relationship there? I know a lot of people, like I said, on our little corner of the internet, just because he floats around here and I talk about him. I've been on the show a bunch of times and all that. Like, how was that first kind of conversation? And like I said, what is that relationship with Steve?
Well, I didn't have a relationship with Steve until I got cast in the movie,
Yeah.
and I met him on the movie set. And funny, you know, I didn't even know about Steve. And a buddy of mine, Adam Archuleta, ex NFL player, he's got a Super Bowl ring. He now commentates for CBS. He sent me a text and he said, "Brother, I heard on Steve Dace's show that you're doing his book." And I mean, Steve Dace has fans out there that
Yeah.
are, superstars. And that made me go, "Oh, wow. So he's pretty big deal." And
Yeah.
obviously then I started following him. And as a matter of fact, through everybody at the Blaze, I found out who you were.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah.
who Eric July was. And then I realized, oh my God, you work with Zuby of Zuby
Yeah.
Music,
Yeah.
who I already follow and I'm a fan from. So, I mean, it's introduced me to a ton of people that
I
I'm
love
like,
that.
okay, now there's Eric July. I had no idea, man.
That is awesome. That's what I love about kind of what everybody's kind of doing. Everybody has their toes dipped here and there, and there's a lot of crossover kind of effect in terms of it makes the world just a lot smaller, certainly than what it actually is. So it's kind of awesome. Like I said, even us having this conversation now is kind of a roundabout way of, with me being connected to Steve and all of that. And to me, that's one of the coolest things, even though I'm not necessarily in Hollywood. I'm a comic book guy. I'm a music guy. This is what I do. And to be able to like have these sort of conversations with people that have that expertise in that industry has been sort of a big cool thing. But I guess again, we'll talk about Nefarious a little more like in a bit. But I certainly want to get your introduction. Everybody that I have, like either on my shows in the past or on streams, we're always talking about like, how does one become an actor, or how does one become this big name creative? I know a lot of us look at Boondock Saints, so with that being your like breakout and all of that. But is this something that, for some people, it's like, hey, I stumbled across this. It was a God-given talent, and I was was it for you one of those things like you had to beat on your craft and you just had the aspirations to do this, and yet here you are? How was it to kind of become an actor per se for you?
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, I have a recipe if anybody wants to become an actor, and it's and I believe in this recipe. Um, but for me, I didn't believe it was possible. I don't
Mhm.
have any family in the industry. I didn't know anybody in the industry. I discovered acting when I was in university, and
Okay.
I saw the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen at the time leaving a building. So I dropped an English class and I signed up for whatever they're teaching in that building. It ended up being the theater department. I fell in love with acting. I did every play they did, but the prospect of me of moving out to LA and being an actor, I knew it was subjective. There's 8 people that decide, and
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe one person wanted to hire his cousin, another person thought the guy should be a little heavier set, and it's subjective. I like more objective things. But I did think, okay, I can write. I'm going to move out to LA. I'm going to wait tables. I'm going to save my money, and I'm going to rent out a theater and I'm going to produce this play. I knew
Okay.
I could do that. That that recipe is feasible, and it's all up to me. It's not
Yeah.
relying on anybody else's decision.
Yeah.
I was wrong. If you do have certain qualities, moving to LA and becoming an employed actor is highly viable. And if you want the recipe, here's the first thing that I tell people. Number one, be good. What do I mean by that? Have somebody other than your mom and your dad tell you you're good.
Yeah.
Everybody's watched American Idol when somebody cannot sing to save their life. And their mother's like, she sings like an angel. You're like, okay, whoa, slow down. No, she doesn't. She can't carry a tune. Nothing wrong with that. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that she can do, but she can't carry a tune. So number one, be good. Number two, if you want to get into film, move to LA. No, you can't do it from St. Louis, Missouri. Now, yes, there are outliers. Sometimes, Pamela Anderson was discovered at a football game. Those are rare. If
Yeah.
you really want to be in control of it, number one, be good. Number two, move to LA. Number three, if you are good and you're in LA, you will be able to do as many student films as you want. Three places to do student films: AFI, American Film Institute, USC, and UCLA. Those student films are the future Steven Spielberg's and George Lucas's, every single one of them. If you're good and you're in LA, you will be able to get as many of these films as you want. If you're good and you're in LA and you have done a lot of these films, you will be able to edit together an amazing demo reel. If you're good, you're in LA, you have a handful of student films, and you have a demo reel, you will be able to get a good agent. With all of those things, if you're a good person, you will be employed. 100%. Here's the thing about it. In LA, yeah, you hear the numbers and they're quite daunting. 100,000 people move to LA to become an actor every month. And yes, there might be, 4 million actors in Los Angeles. The good news is that 3,999,000 suck. So if you're out there and you are good with a demo reel and an agent, I promise you, you'll get employed. Now, here's the second thing. Be a good person.
Yeah.
People want to work with people that make their life better, and they're easy to work with. And they're like, man, I like that guy. I want to work more with him. He was just a pleasure. He was easy. If something dropped, he picked it up. He wasn't a diva. Man, if you have all of those 5 things and you're easy to work with and likable, you will have a career in this industry without question. I didn't think it was feasible. It seemed kind of outlandish, but it's not. Once you get out in LA and you realize, oh my God, those 5 people are employed and they suck. You realize if you're halfway, and I'm not saying I'm amazing, but I think I'm halfway decent at what I do. I've
Obviously.
managed to not have to get a real job in 30 years, man. And God bless. I hope I can continue to feed my family by doing something realistically that I'd do for free.
Right. And that leads me to actually a video that I was watching of yours that you were speaking about, like, acting, and it was incredible insight and tapping into the psyche. And you were basically saying that you had worked like regular jobs obviously before, and you had done all of those, and what you considered like a job was something that let's say you wouldn't be doing for free per se. And it was more so like with acting, it's something that a lot of you guys would end up doing it because it's something that you genuinely love. Would you mind kind of explaining that, because it does show that there is a different dynamic between kind of the industry it is that you're in and like other regular people and what it is that's sort of they're doing. And I think a lot of people that are in our positions maybe lose that kind of line of sight with the audience as far as like those guys in the regular jobs that they work. Do you mind kind of explaining sort of that insight?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I've been gainfully employed in something. Look, there's more people that want to be in my industry than want to be president of the United States. There's more people that want to make music. You make music, and you've probably done that for free for years.
Oh yeah.
For your computers, with instruments, recording yourself because you love it.
Yeah.
I love music too. I love movies. I mean, at University of St. Thomas, I did that for free.
Yeah.
You didn't get extra credit for doing a play at university. You were graded on all the other classes, but I loved it. I'll tell you, when I say I've had every normal job, I changed the deep fried church's fried chicken, man. I was a ditch digger. I literally, one of the few actual correct uses of the term literally, I put culverts under driveways. I dug ditches. Man, now I'm employed in an industry where people want to tell you they appreciate something you did 20 years ago. There is no other industry like that. Nobody stops me and says, hey, man, That culvert you put under my driveway, just wanted to tell you, still moving water. That never happened.
Yeah.
I mean, to be so blessed to do the thing that I do in
Absolutely.
my free time. A job to me is something that you will not do unless they pay you. But
Yeah.
I can't tell you, I've spent plenty of time acting. I did student films. I loved student films. I loved acting in theater. You don't get paid a dime. You just love the creative outlet. And to be able to get a paycheck and support a family doing that is unparalleled.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I think there's a mindset out there that allows you to love anything you do. I'm a really competitive dude. I made waiting tables a competition. I
Right.
made how many tables can I run efficiently at the same time? How many drinks can I carry in two hands? It was all and I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved to go in there and thinking I had 10 more tables than anybody else, and I walked with X amount of money more, and I still got the most five-star reviews. It was a competition to me. It really was. And I can honestly say that I've had the ability to make something enjoyable about every one of my jobs. Even though I go into it and I say, I don't want to dig a ditch, but I would think, how deep can I plunge this shovel in with one strike?
Yeah.
And you would see the dirt mark on the shovel. And then I try to beat that dirt mark. It was everything was a competition to me, and I found a way to dig it. But
Yeah.
I hope that it never changes. I hope I can continue to be gainfully employed in something that I still think about, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful every waking moment of the day that I get to do that
Yeah.
for a livelihood.
And that's awesome, man. I know I talk about that and what I'm doing. I mean, it's just something that I genuinely love. And the old saying is that you'll never work, I guess, a day in your life. If you do enjoy what it is that you're doing, and sometimes it is easy to lose sight of that. I know for some others to just understand kind of how blessed you are to be in that position, to be able to be either gainfully employed or being able to bring some sort of source of income to something it is that you just genuinely enjoy sort of doing. It's certainly awesome to be in that position. So I guess the next thing, I know I talk about culture obviously all the time on this channel, and I've spoken, we spoke to other like actors and even to a couple of actresses, and about like the changes kind of in the industry culturally. And I want to get your kind of thoughts on there, especially considering like with Boondock Saints in the 90s, and has there been, like, I know from the outside looking in, we look at it like, yeah, man, there seems to be some changes going on, at least like maybe with the big budget films and their approach, as far as the subculture. To you, even as, let's say, someone that's either trying to get these gigs, do you feel like there's a differentiation between how it works right now, and I guess maybe the perspective is different because you're seasoned now, versus being a young actor? Do you feel like you got to walk on eggshells in order to get certain gigs? Can you be yourself? Like, how is it being a actor in today's Hollywood?
Well, there's definitely a suit they want you to wear.
Okay.
Without question. I mean, the industry has changed. Having said that, the industry is constantly evolved. It's just like we think about our granddaddies. Your granddaddy always said, "Oh, it ain't like it used to be."
Yeah.
And then when your dad gets to be your granddaddy's age, he's like, "It ain't like it used to be." And then when you get older, you're like, "It ain't like it used to be."
Yeah.
I think all of us are right. I just think my granddaddy was, maybe a mile off the target. Maybe my
Yeah.
dad was half a mile off the
Makes
target.
sense.
Now we're sitting on the edge
Yeah.
of the drain.
Yeah.
It's closer and closer. I mean, honestly, I don't know how much further we can go to the drain without falling off.
Mhm.
As far as the industry goes, what's funny about this, man? I have countless friends in the industry,
Yeah.
and we've been to dinner parties and gatherings, and we all agree on without talking specifics.
Right.
I have friends that want me to be the godparent of their child,
Yeah.
but if you look at their social media, they should hate me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they've spent 20 years with me, so they're like, that dude, I want him to raise my kid if anything happens.
Right.
So it's an interesting dilemma between the two things. Like we were talking earlier, labels can really hurt. It's like if there's yellow and there's blue, and when you combine them, you get green. But obviously, if you stretch it with too much yellow, it turns into yellow.
Mm-hmm.
And if you turn too much blue, blue, it turns into blue.
Yeah.
So at what point do you call it something? That label can, for everybody that does like a shade of green, somebody can call it yellow, and they're like, "Oh, I hate yellow." When
Right.
if they looked at it closely, they'd go, "Actually, it's got enough green in there that I really, really like it."
Mm-hmm.
I think that tends to hurt people. I mean, I have so many friends in the industry that I've heard make statements like, "If you think this, unfriend me."
Yeah.
I'm thinking, we're going to dinner at 8 o'clock,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you love me.
Yeah.
I love you, and you love me,
Yeah.
and we've talked about things that so closely parallel what you're saying you're against. And I know you, and you know me.
Yeah.
And I have friends in this industry everywhere. I mean, look, every film person on the planet, they film in right to work states. They film in Toronto because it's cheaper and they can
Mhm.
mitigate their taxes.
Right. Right.
And they're the ones that they say, hey, everybody should pay their fair share in taxes. The same
Yeah.
people are filming in right to work states. They get off the plane with bags of duty free items. Why?
Yeah.
Because you don't pay taxes on duty free items. If somebody wants to send me a hard copy of a script, they would never dream of sending it in the US mail. They will FedEx it so that they can track it.
Yeah.
Public schools need more funding. Every single one of them send
Private
their
school.
kids to
Yeah.
private schools.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting culture,
Yeah.
looking from the outside in. But I can tell you, man, I haven't met a lot of people that I dislike in the industry,
Mhm.
but I have read some things that they say that I'm like, wow, I'm not sure that's really you.
Hmm.
I think, you are a loving person, and we've met, and some of our very specific ideas may differ, but I know you like me. I
Yeah.
know you love me, and I love you.
Yeah.
It's an interesting, little snow globe to be inside of, and
Yeah.
occasionally it gets shaken up, and you look up and you're like, there's snow coming down, and other people are like, well, I'm not sure. It's just interesting, man.
Yeah, and I can feel you on that. I mean, I've talked about that with like the metal industry and how, obviously we were outliers because, with myself being the lead and, being like open, admitted like libertarian in comparison to everybody else, it came with its share of basically I'm in a place that I'm not supposed to be, at least in the more metalcore kind of scene, because there was guys on the other side of the political aisle. And I would say, like, yeah, you can see people publicly would say that and say this, but when we were like on tour, these guys weren't like that to us. Like we never had, there was no documented like flare up with any other bands or anything, despite they may have had a different position on who they voted for or something of that nature. It was never an issue. At least they never brought it to us. And in fact, most of them, I will be completely honest, most of the vast majority of my experiences with these other bands were positive in terms of what they had to say about myself. And it's crazy. Yeah, it's almost a hostile as well. You're from Texas, like I am from the South, where it's like, yeah, it's a more of a fronting to a specific person or audience. I guess they think that the audience needs to see them like a certain way, right? But they act differently when it comes to the individuals within, let's say, their inner circle, even outer circle. So it's certainly, I agree with you 100%. It's a different dynamic when you certainly look at it, I guess, which leads me kind of to my next question with the whole like trajectory of Hollywood. Not necessarily with the political stuff or with the cultural stuff. I guess you can kind of intertwine that. But even like with technology, we've seen a big time growth there. We've seen a lot of people who, let's say, maybe it wasn't feasible to make, let's say, more independent like film that was not like something that was possible before, but like the means have been more decentralized. I've seen some people do some crazy stuff with even like a DSLR, like this camera I'm using right now, and they're doing some stuff that is very competitive, right? So I guess I want to ask, like, again, considering that you've been around for as long as you have been, what does the trajectory look like for you? Do you think it's still going to be Hollywood, or do you think there's going to be some maybe changes to the industry that maybe you don't even foresee? Like, how do you think that's going to look?
100% there's going to be changes to the industry. I use it as an example. News right now. I mean, you have people like Joe Rogan, whose viewership smokes CNN.
Yeah.
Smokes. It's not even in the ballpark. And he smokes other networks as well. I mean, you see it happening. And I think what people are interested in is the content itself. Like you said, a DSLR camera. Nobody cares if it's incredibly high definition or not. They care what's happening on the screen. There are videos on YouTube with 40 million views that were shot with a Nokia camera phone, from 2000. People, when people say, anytime somebody goes, well, the production value is amazing in that film. Okay. That's, beautiful girl walks in and says, well, it's a good looking dress. Nobody says that. If they would say that, you'd be like, okay, well, I mean, if you're commenting on that, then there's probably some other flaws in there.
Right.
If the writing is amazing and the acting is amazing, what's happening in front of the camera is amazing, the camera is almost irrelevant.
Yeah.
There's some stories that are so well told, you could black the screen out and just listen to it like an audio book, and it carries weight. Some of these podcasts, some of these crime story podcasts,
oh man, those are crazy.
Have more viewers than network TV. I mean, network TV blows my mind. If you look at some network TV, you're like, who greenlit that?
Yeah, true.
It's
that
amazing. Yeah. Like who is setting their DVR to watch that?
Yeah.
And they still have advertisers like Coca-Cola, like Chevron, like Pfizer, and all of these multi-million, where you're thinking there's a dude with a podcast that has more viewers and he's trying to get revenue off YouTube.
Right.
It's just crazy. I don't think really the market has reassessed where the value is quite accurately yet. But I mean, it is happening. People are, these experts, these studio head experts out there are getting blown away by dudes in their bedroom with a camera. I mean, they are getting sat down like a school child.
Yeah.
Everything you're doing with all the millions of production is getting backhanded and bitch slapped by some 20-year-old with an iPhone.
Yeah.
So you need to really start to think about your not only your process, but your product. What are you delivering? Because it's not there.
Yeah. And that's so intriguing, certainly to me, because I talk about even with the music industry and it still hasn't really caught up with the technology, man. Even with like streaming and all that, just introduce something to the game that is just different, man. And you're still trying to watch people try to adjust, because to your point, just like with movies, you're getting people able to record these high quality albums in their freaking closets, and they're destroying some people, man. And the industry's still trying to catch up. And I made a post the other day really talking about how really in all facets of entertainment, some of the political stuff and some of the cultural stuff it plays a part of it, where it's like open the doors, turned enough people off to where they're people that would have never considered an alternative are now like, I'll consider something else, because I to your point, the quality has maybe just been dragged down with how these stories are being wrote. Maybe people are being beat over the face with something that they don't want, but it's given an opportunity to other people, and now the means are there for people to be able to just give it a shot and try. You get some people that at least know what it is they're doing. It's like what we did with the Riververse. $3.7 million later, here we are. Like, it's like, that wasn't supposed to happen. People like, what, this guy comes out of nowhere and he creates his own book and he destroys everybody. Well, it's because people are maybe sick of what's being put out there, maybe by some of the mainstream guys, and people are like, let's just give something else a try, and they enjoyed it. So I guess Hollywood or acting and filmmaking is dealing with that same kind of issue, where it's like you're actively watching it, and there's some uncertainty there because you might not know what it looks like on the other side. To me, that's exciting, because I'm like, well, let's see what happens as the technology sort of catches up. The last thing I want to discuss, like I said, I didn't want to take up too much of your time. But one of the coolest things, aside from again being from the same state as myself, one of the cooler things is being a martial artist. And with what is it like? I mean, black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, is it not?
It is. Yes, sir.
That's insane to me. And like, you're seeing people, definitely the growth of MMA. It just exploded in this in the really the world. Like, was that something that you kind of foresee? We do have some people that have crossed over from that. Great Gina Carano, we talked about that. She came from that side of things and had a very accomplished acting sort of career. Was that something that you think with mixed martial arts, maybe if it was something that happened maybe earlier, that you would have for sure loved to pursue?
The first UFC was November 11th of 1993. I was out of the country at the time, and my granddaddy sent me the VHS tape. I was filming Young Indiana Jones. I was in
Okay.
Prague, Czechoslovakia, and it took, I don't know, a month for the video to get to me. And I watched it, and I've been a martial artist since I was 9 years old.
Hmm.
100%. If I was born a little bit later, that is exactly what I would have done. I mean, I've always been enamored with the martial arts from top to bottom. I've dabbled in almost every one of them. I started in Taekwondo. I did Shotokan, Goju-Ryu, Judo, Muay Thai. Uh,
Beautiful.
then found Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it is 100% something that I would have embraced wholeheartedly. Unfortunately, it came around. I was already in a career. I was a little too old, but I'm a huge fan. I'm a martial artist for life. One of the biggest parts of my legacy is I get to leave behind. I teach my kids. I'm right.
Yeah.
I'm in my office right now, but right out there, about 50 yards on my property, I have a facility with 800 square feet of mat space with wall mats and everything
That's
where
awesome.
we train. We have another place that we teach, for the public, but it is a huge part of my life and something that I get to leave behind to my kids.
That's beautiful, man, and I love that. I was a boxer growing up, kind of in that circuit, and to see kind of mixed martial arts to explode in the way that it has been is something that's been very, very intriguing, man. And I had to ask that question, considering that there ain't a whole lot of people walking around with those types of belts, certainly. So you're accomplished there. And yeah, I just had to absolutely ask you that. Well, before we close, I just want you to again give the final pitch for the Nefarious movie. Tell everybody what it's about, and yeah, just go ahead and lay it all out there.
Well, movie is called Nefarious. I moved out to LA September 10th of 1988 after college. I remember all of those dates, just like I remember the date of the UFC. Um, and so I've been out there working consistently for 30 something years. And I can say without reservation, this is one of the most important films. I'll take it back. This is the most important film I have ever made.
Oh
I
wow.
am incredibly proud of it. It is one of the best executed scripts I have ever had the pleasure to take on. Um, if there's one thing that you see that I've done, make it nefarious. It's important to me. It's important to my legacy, and it's important to the world. It is. If my career, if you have to choose one thing to watch, make it this. And please, if you do, shoot me a social media message and let me know what you think. It is important to me, and I'll tell you that is sustenance for my soul. Getting the feedback from the public and people that see it. What did it say to you? Did it cause any course corrections? Did it change your heart? Did it change your mind? Do you hate me now? Do you love me? Do you love me more? Do you love me less? Do you want to throw things at me? But of all of the jobs that I've had in Hollywood, this is the one that I hope you see if you only see one.
Wow, what a pitch, man! And again, guys, I'll be giving my review, of course, on the channel. I will say, just seeing it pre-screening, man, it's just, oh man, you guys are gonna certainly want to check it out, and that's big coming from me, considering how I've been out on a lot of stuff with the movies and all of that. So be sure to go check that out. Again, you can see it in theaters. That's April 14th. You will be able to see it. So go make sure you check it out, be it then or through the weekend. And again, I hope, Sean, we can have you back to talk some more stuff, because I feel like just with all of the stuff that you're intrigued by and all the stuff that you have interest in, I believe that there's plenty other stuff that we could certainly discuss and shoot the shit, man. But it's been certainly an honor to have you on, and I appreciate you joining us.
Man, my pleasure. And brother, congratulations on all the success, man. It's killer to see. Reach out anytime, brother. I'll be here, man. And
I got you.
You got a new fan, man.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Take care, brother.
If you enjoyed this video and want to support other content, please become a member at ericdjuly.com. This is my own unique platform that replaced my Patreon. Our Ultramax, which is our highest tier, gets free shipping domestically, even with Rippaverse orders, and are able to redeem the Creators Edition copy of ISOM #1. You can move up and down tiers or cancel at any time. Also visit Rippaverse.com. This is my comic book company that launched a $3.7 million campaign. We appreciate your support.